Hey everyone, Tim Higgins here with ANI Solutions. So last week, if you're following my videos, we did a video on test matching inside TDM. Now today I want to talk about calling that from Agile Designer. Now to be honest with you, I had some issues with it. Worked on it yesterday, which was Sunday my time. So I didn't put a lot of effort into it, to be honest with you, but we're going to go ahead and work through it. If you've been watching these videos, I kind of make these a working videos, and I'm talking fast because I don't want to spend too much time on this today. But I do want to make sure, hopefully I get enough across where y'all get it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a new one. Well, let's recap real quick. Let's look at our test match was on orders. And what we did we did it based off the orders table inside that comes free with TDM. Okay, so that way you guys can follow along with these examples. So let's go ahead and keep following the path. What we'll do is we'll create one, and maybe, I thought we'd do orders ID. So what I did was, Sunday I played around with products, and to be honest with you, some things didn't work the way I expected them to. So we'll get to that when we get to it. So when you create your project, I'll make it a start and an end. What we're going to do is we're going to do a process flow first, and this one would be get ID. Okay, let's go ahead and pull out a little notebook here, and let's say what I need to do is I need to find the orders ID, and then I need to maybe modify it, maybe, and then I need to generate if it doesn't exist. Okay, so we'll say make. Okay, so the first one's going to be is get ID. Okay, and these won't be our values. The values we could use. I like the, I don't know, let's see. And I guess it doesn't really matter because we're based off this ID. So I'm just going to get the first one. And then, so we'll put this one in here, and then we'll get one more, maybe skip down a little bit, maybe this one. Okay, oops. All right, that's fine. And now the rest of these I don't care about, so we'll just say, go ahead and say finish. So that gives us a process with two IDs, okay? Now, if you look, let's see, where am I looking at? Right here. So you have test data, you had find and make data. So the idea here, if I go and look, the reason I say that is if I edit my items, I have test data, I have make data, and then I have find data. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So let's label it the way it matches. So find is correct. So I need to find an order ID. Well, the next one is actually test data. Whoops. And really test data is nothing more but just passing in value, passing in parameters, right? Does it call anything different? I think it's called parameters, but it's okay. Maybe attributes. Okay, and then the make data would be generating data. Okay. All right, so find data is actually, surprisingly enough, it's test matching. And I think I said that last time, but all right. So that's kind of our flow. So let's save this. This would actually be our find, okay? Because our get. So let's go ahead and see if it's not too late to rename it. Find ID. Okay, and we'll wire that up here shortly. Let's build our flow out first. So now I need to know. Let me think. We'll do maybe a true or false. And this is ID 11113. Okay. Finish. We'll leave it as true or false. That's totally fine for now. And I'll actually stick that one on that side. I need another one of these, so I'll just copy and paste. Okay, so it's not going to be it's going to be the first one. Okay, this one. So we need it to be this. Okay, fair enough. So now what we need to do is wire them up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put two more processes out here. This one will be make data. Okay. And here I'll just say this we'll call TDM to generate data. Okay. Finish. And we're going to take two of those. Now, technically, I would, well, you know what? Let's just make one. We don't need two. I'm just trying to keep the flow nice and pretty, but I don't think I'm going to be able to, so that's okay. Because I was going to copy this over there, but that doesn't really make sense. Because what we're going to do, we're going to say start, go find our data. Okay. Once you find the data, I want 110 over there, and I want 113 over there. Now, if it's true, I want it to go ahead and go through. Okay. And same with this one, true. Now, if it's false, I want you to go generate data. All right. So that's our basic flow. So start, find these two IDs. If you find this one, go bring back the data for me. Now, the truth is you'd put another logic in there to maybe say, what is the, because it's going to bring the data back, right? And what the data it's bringing back is the data that we have in our test mark, which is down here. And it's probably the table I should have been looking at. Because that's where our, this is where our test matching is looking at, okay? So I probably should have started with these IDs. Yeah, I should have, because 110 doesn't even look, it's in here. So let me clean this up 1 second. Just bear with me. Again, I said this is a working session. I said that on purpose. So let's change 110 to that one. My output, change it to here. Okay. And let's go ahead and change the other one we're at it. Let's grab the next one down. That's fine. Okay. Because we definitely have to make sure the data is there. Well, the truth is if it's not there, hopefully we would put an error in there. And I can show you how to put an error block. It's very simple. And have our error block generate the data. But now we need to change this one to be 113. Okay. And that's all we're doing so far. Because the only thing we're doing right now is creating our IDs and just basically creating our flow. And this one was what? 1132? Okay. And that's it. And they're returning true or false, so I don't have to change the values on those. And again, you'd probably get the data back and you'd probably do something with it in essence versus just doing this very simple flow that I did. So I worked on one over the weekend and it, like I said, Sunday, so start, I got the products. If it was an Xbox, it went over here. And then so forth. And I think I took some of them out. But the point was I had a little bit more detailed one over here. But I wanted to build one from scratch. So let's do that. So I think we're good. So we changed our IDs, we're good. We changed our flows. So what we need to do now, let's save it just so we don't lose it. I keep it saved to a file. That's fine. You can save it to a repository, you can save it to a file, you can save it where you want. And as you can see, I am connected to TDM. We talked about that last time. What we're going to do now is just, let's create our flows as cases, okay? Okay, so I wanted to go back and show you. Click this little 3 dots up here if you don't know, and that gives you to this, what's called the Path Explorer. Now, here you can view your test cases. You generate test cases and view your test cases. So let me show you how to do that. So as you notice, it's got your flow. Let's, if you run this little go button here, it notices the paths. So we got the 2 paths. There's 1, 2. Okay. So what I'm going to do is on path 1, I'm going to go ahead and save it, and I'm going to find a name for it, which generate. If you notice, it's generate IDs, and then create ID. Okay. And it recognizes the number, which is pretty cool, and I can change it based off the other ones that I have as well. Notice it sees my products in there. Well, we'll go ahead and call this one get, which is fine. Sorry. Oh. Okay. And then let's go ahead and do number 2 while we're here. So this one will be path 2. and we'll save this one. Okay. Oh, I didn't even look at it. I'm sorry. That's okay. Hopefully that's correct. Nope, it named it the same. So I don't want to do that. So let's close that. That is 1131. Yep. So again, it's good you see that I make mistakes quite a lot actually, because you get to know how to do this as well. Okay, so that one should be 1132, which is here. Okay, so we're good. And again, you could create your own name. Maybe. Thought you could, but that's okay. Hit OK. And now we're good. So now if I go view my test cases, I can see both test cases are there. And they're very, oh, I think it realizes it won't make it to the faults, because I was looking to notice that the faults grayed out on both of those. So it's just going down the happy path on both of those. And that's fine for now, because we're not going to do the make data right now. Notice there's no find, no test data over here. This little screen right here is very helpful. And you can also resize all these as well. So we'll definitely visit this screen a few times because it shows you your find and your test data. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put this one back. And as well as down here, these little details are pretty good too. Now again, I found one issue, and I will show you when I get to it, when I'm testing this. So let's go ahead and close this one. All right, so now I like to go ahead and save. That's fine. Now keep in mind, there's nothing here but a flow. But if you go look here, you do have your test data, but unfortunately that should show up there. So when I say default, it knows my IDs and stuff. When I say OK, oh, wow. All right, so that didn't show up Sunday. It was still blank, so that's pretty cool. All right, so it shows that coming down from here, I have these IDs. If you notice, everything's true. Again, we probably should force it to be false, but that's okay. The reason being is because I hard-coded the ID when it comes in as this comes in as test data. So when it comes in as an ID, I've already hard-coded it, so it will always be true. Okay, so it goes directly to end, and that's why I'm skipping that. Now I can export this to CSV. I can also resolve. If we have time, we'll talk about that later. But it's pretty good that now my IDs are at least showing up. So that would be here. So now what we got to do though is we got to find the data. Now this is where it gets very interesting. So if I click on this one and I say edit, and now I'm going to go down to, remember we go down to make system data. Oh, no, I'm sorry, find system data. Make is data generation. Find is using your test match. Now we already created a test match, but let's go look at it because I want to modify it. So here's our test match. Let's go look at the data. Okay, and what I want to do though, instead of the one we have in here, so I'm going to try something wacky, okay? And this is pretty funny. I probably shouldn't use the word wacky on this video because it's not very professional, but these are the ones we had before. Now, I was going to create two more based on the IDs just by saying next. So, you know what, let's create one and let's have Agile Designer create one and see if the data will show up then. So here I'm going to just say, this would be get order ID, okay? And I'm going to make these, well, I guess they're not important. I was going to make them inactive, but that's not important. So if you make them inactive, obviously they won't run, but I don't care if they run. In fact, I'm not going to call them, so they shouldn't run. But what we need is our query here. So for the first query, I'm going to say where ID equals, is it 131? No, we didn't go with that one, did we? Let's go look at our flow. Yeah, 1131. Okay. So 1131. And let's remember, you always want to test it. So we're good. All right, save. And that's all we got to do there. I'm not going to put a user or anything. I'll let Agile Designer take care of all that for me. Okay, so that's all we need to make this work. Give it a name, make it active, and put in whatever your criteria query should be. So now let's go over here and let's see what we can do with this. Because this is where, when I get to it, I'll show her air it out with me. So we're going to find, for 1131, I'm going to go select it. The reason I want to do that is because I think I can add one And let me see if it picks it up better. This will pick it up, but it doesn't show it when it runs it. So let's go see what we got. Let's go ahead and set one more. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you all saw that. So you click on, if you go down to your test match, now you see your criteria, right? So, or your queries, what are you going to call them? And then you just pick the one you want. So I want to add one, and I want to say, again, I want the ID to equal one. Oh, snap, crackle pop. It's not 131. Okay, 132. All right, so ID equal 132. Okay, perfect. And I'll take it, and we'll say okay. So it's kind of cool. The first one, what happened was we just picked one that was already there. This created one for us. Okay. That one's in brackets, that one's not. I guess it doesn't matter because it picked the ID for me. Save. Now let's go ahead and save this. And what I would expect to see in the database is that new one show up. So let's go look. And if I refresh, run requery. See, it didn't show up. See, that's one thing I'm not sure about. It should have showed up, but maybe when we run it. So what we can do to test it is if we go to test, find and make. Now here's where it was not working for me. So we're going to try it and see. So I select both of these. I was just looking because one says find and one says get, but I don't think it matters. And then if I go ahead and find this data, because I select both of them, the thread, I'll show you that in a minute because we'll run it the other way. But one thing you want to notice is there's some values hidden here. I'm just going to run by default first. Oh, and one thing I should have said, we can run it again because see, it shows successfully. It says it ran, but when I refresh, it still says no data found. And it says this should show you your value that returned, at least an ID or something, but it doesn't. Now, when I ran it over the weekend and I ran it once or twice with the other one that I created, it came back, and I'll show you how I got that to work in a second. But I want to do one more thing. If I run it again, notice this is thread. If you put in your email address, it will send you a zip file, and in that zip file you will have sorry, I can't type this morning. You would have all the logs with this, and you would have the data. And I believe if I had that set up, then I would get back what I'm looking for. The downside is I'm running it local on my PC, so obviously I don't have an email exchange running, so I can't get that to work no matter what I use. But so even though, remember this ID is 219, we'll say okay. Again, it shows me that it didn't find data, it didn't run. We know it will find data. If you click on it, you'll see the details. Here's where I think it's not working very well. And to be honest with you, I might be missing something. I'll have to go back and look. I've tried to fly through this because I want to get these videos done for everybody. But notice all my data is blank here. I wouldn't expect any of that to be blank. So I'll have to go back and see why that's not working. But you get it. This is really just testing anyway. And it goes to show the find and the make is what use TDM. You have to get that because it gets confusing. Test data does not. Test data is just your variables, okay? If you just want to get techie. But again, when I ran this one over the weekend, it worked once or twice, and then it didn't work again. So let's go, before we go crazy, what I want to do is run it from here because I'm really surprised that it didn't show up here. So let me try to refresh now that we ran it a couple times. Okay, it did. Yay. So I had to run it for it to show up. So that's one good thing. The downside is if you see, it did fill in my data because remember, we didn't fill in the data for these, right? So these two right here that have this underscore thing. Okay, so it picked those up. Notice it did run the test conditions. Okay. But it showed that it entered in data into the database, but it's not showing me that it found the record. Okay, so let's go back now. I'm going to exit that because I want it to refresh. That's fine, don't need to save, but because it's created on the fly. So what I want to try to do though is if you go over here and you just run your test cases over here, okay, it shows me the data's there, okay. So it tells me that it's correct. That one's hard-coded, remember? And this one's true. No, I'm sorry, that's fine. So I believe it works because it looks like it returned the data. I think that's what that's telling me. It's been a while since I've used this new view. I used the very older Agile Designer, which was more of a thick client. It just had buttons across the top. Even though this is a thick client, it has the appearance of a web. So that tells me that I believe it worked. So let's go ahead and close that one. And the same with the other one. If you run the other one, you get the same results, okay? And there's a reason I'm going to tell you that. Even though you don't get a pass and a fail, it looks like it still did it, okay? So if I go look at jobs fired and we look at test matching job, you can see that they're there, but there's no column or value that gets returned. So if I go to details, I'll see the same thing I saw on the other page. So it does show me a publishing ID. So I think it's working to a point because it looks like it's getting the data. Now, if I was getting the email that tells me, it may tell me that maybe I don't have permissions or maybe I'm missing something. That's probably what I need. So in essence, I believe this is working just fine. But what I think if you do the setup the way I did, you should still be okay. Okay. Yeah, so I was just seeing if anything stood out, but no. Now, to get it to show up the way I did earlier, now this is kind of quirky, but I just ran it from here because it is still just a test match. Okay. Actually, let me, yeah, it's fine, I guess. There was one, I noticed we had 3 in there. One of them I hard-coded, and then the one that Agile Designer, I guess, just created an extra one. So here's that thread that I was telling you to look at, and then the email address. Okay, so that's where it gets that from. Okay, then we'll see reports, sure, because that generates the bottom. This piece I don't really care because we know it's fine. This, if you noticed, it did run. So test occur. I expect 1. Oh, the other ones didn't run. All right, so let's go make sure that they're active. So I can show you how to make them active also through Agile Designer. First, we'll see if my theory is correct, if they're not active. Let's go edit the data. Well, they were active. Interesting. So I would expect those 2 to run also. So let's go look. One thing, if it doesn't show that it's active, just make sure these are checked. And then run it, and that will make them active. See, this is not tested. Maybe it doesn't like the fact that it created it for me, but it should have. It should have just been just fine. Okay, so let's try it again. Oh, I gotta get out this window. That's fine. I didn't make any changes. Okay. Let's close. Let's try to run our test match again. This time we'll pay more attention. This is what I was talking about over the weekend. I was running into some strange quirks, right? I'm pretty sure these are things we can work out. We can figure out if anybody's interested. The point is, what I really want to do with this is just show you how they link together. That's interesting. Let's see. And seeing I would have expected the other 2 there, but instead of get that 1, there's no test user. The test user should say admin. Yep. So let's see what we got down here. Yeah, so I don't think I really like that at all. So let's go fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix it, and then I'm probably going to end this video because the next one's going to be about data generation and how to call it. Let's see if we can resolve this issue. And again, this is why I like this work-in session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete both of these. Okay. Nope, not that one. So that leaves us the one we created and our other two. I'm going to go ahead and set them to active because we don't really care about those right, inactive because we don't care about those right now. All right, I'll go ahead and save this so we don't lose it. And then what I want to do is make sure this get ID is valid. Where's our criteria? Oh, so we did get an error with that one. So that's pretty cool. What does my test condition say? ID equals 131. Unless there's a space there, that shouldn't matter because it's not space sensitive. And we are looking in our table. Yeah, there shouldn't have been an error. Let's see if that space was throwing it off. But again, it shouldn't have. It says I have 10. All right, so we'll run that one again. Save. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this other one real quick. Now this is going to break our Agile Designer. We'll have to go fix it. So from here, we'll call it get, what was this ID? 1132. Get 1132. Okay. And I want to make this one, rename it get 1131. Okay, so that way it's easier just to track which one's which. Let's go ahead and make this one active. Okay. And then we need to just go down to our criteria. That's it. Which again is just basically your where clause. That's all it is. So nothing magical here. And the fact you can't double click equals 1132. Okay, let's validate. Okay, and make sure there's no spaces. There was, so we're clear now. And you know, I never really paid attention. Maybe those spaces need to be in there because notice they're in that one. So let's go ahead and put those back just to be safe. Because if this was a direct where clause, then it may just write it. Like I don't know what's doing behind the scenes, right? It just may just write it as a text string. So let's go and put those back in there. Okay, that's fine. And now let's save. All right. Now we can test this directly here, which I'd prefer because we have to go back and change Agile Designer to respect that one, right? Because we had Agile Designer create one for us, and I think that might have broke things. Maybe it needs to create both of them. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in Agile Designer if you all haven't figured out. What I'm trying to do is show you how to use TDM with Agile Designer. Now that I've done plenty of times, just this is a newer version and it's been a while. So what are we doing? Test matching. And we're going to run it. Let's go ahead and clear our previous. And now let's run. Hopefully that will help clean up some stuff. Okay, yes, I want to see the reports this time. Okay, so now we get data back, which is pretty cool for the one at least. All right, I expect both of them to run. Okay, they're good. Process running, faults, no errors. So it picked up one, so we're good. All right, so I should have something over here as well. Yep, okay, so good. We're good. So now that TDM is working fine, let's go clean up Agile Designer and see if that helped some of our things that we were looking at. So we need this one to clean up. Edit items, what we're going to do, we need to find system data. And here we need, let's go ahead and reset this one. I think this one's fine. Ooh, see now we got 2 or 3 of them. So let's see if it's refresh, we'll clean it up any. Okay. In here. Yeah, okay, perfect. We got more spaces, but I think we're still okay. What are we looking at? 131. Now, the reason I say that is when you're programming SQL or even Oracle, the spaces really aren't important, but I'm not sure what Agile Designer does behind the scenes. Now, this one we need to resolve to our one up here. And the reason I know that is because of the brackets. I could hit refresh and say, I know it's this one, but this one didn't have brackets. Remember, I called that out at the beginning. That was one way I could tell them the difference. So let's go ahead and save that. Let's go ahead and save our flow. Now, I don't feel confident that it's still going to work just because I got the same issues, even though I was right when I did it Sunday. So let's just test it here. We'll select these. We'll say fine. And it's fine. Okay. And if you notice, we get a job saying that it worked, but nothing up here changes. Okay, see, it says that this says that we have find data defined, which means we created it, but I would expect data to be found, mainly because we hard-coded it. And if it does, it brings back data. So let's go try it the other way here. And then same thing here. If I look at the cases, I can run them, right? This is the first one. So let's run it. Again, I think it's working here because I think it's saying that, because this is our find data, right? So I think it's saying that the test data is that, and it resolved test data where it found one. So, I mean, I can fake it to say everything passed, right? But that's not really cool. So it passed, yay, save. But I want to see the data. Now, if I go back to jobs fired, it shows me the job was fired. And if I look, again, I still got the same stuff. So I'm missing data. So anyway, but I hope you all, like, when you work this out, either that's when I really need to dig a little bit deeper and not just kind of click around like I am now. Because I'm not looking at any documentation or anything. This is all from my mind. So obviously, sometimes my mind isn't the best reference, at least for me. But with saying that, you can see how test data links up. So this gets very confusing. You could also, like if I went to test data, you can click on this to get to the data painter, and you can do all kind of cool stuff with it. Oh, well, you have to, that's one of the reasons I was getting these errors. And maybe that's the problem. You have to, it's wanting to save back to the repository. Let me try that real quick and see if that fixes anything. So bad news, I tried to save it to the repository. You can see it here. I paused the film for a second just to, basically I back up the video and then I add to it, just keep it from being so long. But I paused the video while it was backing up and I tried to save it to the repository. Save the repository is very simple. You just save here, click Save to TDM. The trick is make sure you highlight something that it will take and then just say yes, that's fine. But even though I saved it there, and then I went and tried testing it again. So if we go back to our test factory and we go back to make data, we select it, we say go, don't care about that. And this time I'll go ahead and say, yeah, just go ahead and, if you look at this one, simulation run, I've tried it with and without it both. It still doesn't do what I want it to do, but keep in mind, I didn't do this video to show you how to be an agile designer expert. Notice this is data not found, and I should have had some type of value. Come back here, is what I was looking for. But we'll do another video on make data. Okay, that would be these right here. And I'll do that video probably this afternoon, or worst case tomorrow. And I'll add it, and that will complete this task. My main goal was to show you how to work with Agile Designer and TDM together. If I have time, I'll work out my bugs and figure out why it's not displaying what I expect it to display. And again, I'm assuming if I got the email would tell me more information, because it looks like it's passing, but unfortunately, I'm just not getting my results show up on the UI, and I think that's what I'm looking for. Anyway, so I hope this was at least somewhat helpful, at least how to tie these together, and so you can understand the difference between the make and the find and, and the test data, because that one's kind of misleading what it's called, but really it's just passing the variables. That's all it is. Anyway, with saying that, I hope this was somewhat useful, and we'll move on to the next one, which is data generation, and that would fill this piece. Thank you all.